अब पता नहीं मैं मंडी का उनसे मैं फोन करके टाइमिंग दूंगा और मैं मंडी को गया था। आ भैया ठीक है। What did we do yesterday? What were we talking about? The thermohaline circulation. Yeah, you'll keep hearing this term now and then because It's very critical and plays an important role when we talk about long and short-term climate change. Okay, so anybody, how is the water sinking wherever it's sinking? Where is it sinking?
Near Greenland.
Near Greenland, not Atlantic. Yes. Why is it sinking?
Because of density and low density.
Right. So it cools down. By the time it is gone northwards, warm water is moved northwards. Warm, lighter, less dense water is moved northwards. Most of the water has evaporated. There's lots of salt. And the other thing that adds to the density is it's cooler. And the third thing is that it also forms sea ice, which leaves behind the salt that is there in the that's there in water, and that's why making it even more saltier as before that. So if you talk in terms of salinities, it increases to up to 38 or maybe 39 in some cases PSUs, and right, and so we were talking about also, if all the water is sinking, it has to come up. Where does it come up? And how does it come up? And we also talked about the time scale, that it's for a water mass to sink and that water mass to come up. What is the time scale we are looking at?
1,000 years.
1,000 years, yes. So it takes about 1,000 years, could be slightly more. But about 1,000 years for the water parcel or mass to sink in North Atlantic region. And then where does it come up? Coastal regions, called the coastal upwelling, because of we've talked about how in northern latitudes there are winds blowing parallel to continental margin. As they flow parallel, because of the Coriolis effect, they are deflected slightly towards right. As they deflect, they take the water also with them. That shear that happens because of that, and as the water also moves to the right, there is space that is created, bottom waters come up. So that's how the waters that have sunk in the North Atlantic and moved around, they come up on those coastal margins. And if you remember, I'll just put up that slide again, these coastal upwelling occur at various regions in yeah. So you'll see that it is that coastal upwelling is happening at various places in the northern hemisphere, and also around Antarctica in the Southern Ocean. So this is what we saw, and then we discussed about sea ice and how sea ice around Antarctica, it varies seasonally. So sea ice versus continental ice, what is the difference? As the name suggests, continental ice is occurring on land, right? So sea ice is not a problem actually. If it is cooling, we have sea ice forming, sea ice melting. This is happening every year. We're not worried about sea levels rising because of sea ice melting. That is not a problem. The problem comes when the ice, which is on the continents, which is not, when we are calculating sea levels, and in one of the slides I'll give you some basic calculation to calculate sea level change. You can calculate how much of what volume of sea ice or ice that can melt from the continents, that can bring in extra water in the oceans, and that is what we are worrying about, and that is what would cause the sea level rise that we'll talk about because of global warming. But around Arctic Ocean, sea ice is relatively, so sea ice is generally seasonal. Summers it melts winter, by the time it's autumn, winter, it kind of, you can see that it's beginning to build up. And Arctic Ocean, there are a lot of older sea ice also, which are more like persistent, which have been here for many years, some of them 4 or 5 years, 4 meter thickness, because of there's very less, circulation, and also they are surrounded by continental Mars. So, Arctic is in the north, and Antarctic is the big continent that we have on the south. Okay? So, we've talked about continental ice sheet. So we have two continental ice sheets that are existing. In the past, if you remember the climate change that I showed, that there have been ice ages and non-ice ages. Ice ages, these continental ice sheets were even larger, and there were more continental ice sheets. So continental ice sheet means ice on continents. But right now we have just two. One is Antarctica, yes, and the second would be Greenland. Yes, so there are two at the moment. We only have two, and both of them are very important, because Greenland one is where we have the sinking happening, right? So if it melts, it would disturb the thermohaline circulation. Antarctica is also very important because it's a huge volume of, and if you look at the numbers, it's they represent roughly 3% of Earth's total surface area, which includes the one in southern hemisphere, which is water, but 11% of its land surface. So a lot of big, huge ice sheets. And also I think in the book you have the numbers, exact numbers, as to how much of what volume of, in the Will Rudiman book, what volume of water they store.
Ma'am,
Yes.
shouldn't Antarctica also have sinking rather than upfill?
There is sinking there as well. Yes, you're right. There is sinking in around Antarctica as well. We've not talked about that. And there's also a circumpolar current that goes around. You're right in the sense, but there is some upwelling also in the Southern Ocean, not around Antarctica, in the Southern Ocean, which is why we think Southern Ocean can be good when we talk about. I'll talk about which regions in the Southern Ocean. It's yeah, you're correct. Antarctica is where we have some sinking also happening. So now, so mountain glaciers, as you would imagine, we need to go up the altitude to have those sub-freezing temperatures for the water to freeze and form glaciers, right? So, you would imagine that, on the equator, where we have the, most intense radiation coming in as, on watts per meter square as compared to what's the surface area, you would have to literally, climb up as far as possible for the air pressure to change and for temperatures to decrease. So Kilimanjaro has very little ice, and right now no glacier at all. And as you go northwards, you have sea ice, mountain glaciers also coming a bit towards the closer to the sea level. But as compared to poles, you have mountain glaciers at sea level also, because that's we reach the temperatures that is required for water to form ice. Continental ice sheet we've talked about, so two kinds of ice that we have on land. Okay, so that's that. So until now we've talked about ice, we've talked about water, we've talked about air circulation, water circulation. What is also important, another important component, and if you remember one of the first slides where we were looking at the components, land, ocean, right? Water, biosphere. So in biosphere, when you talk about biosphere, we'll talk about land also, and when we talk about land, we talk about vegetation. And when we talk about vegetation, which is that one element which would be critical or very important when we talk about climate change or temperature changing or whatever.
Rainfall.
What can huh?
Rainfall.
Rainfall, yes, but element as in chemistry, periodic table.
Carbon.
Carbon, yes, carbon. Why carbon?
It's required for
getting the ages, radioactive isotopes used to getting the age.
Yeah, we're not going there. Ages is correct. Yeah, we can get the ages. We'll talk about that. But
it's required for photosynthesis.
photosynthesis. So what is photosynthesis essentially doing?
Plants are
Taking back the CO2.
Taking
And
the
what
CO2.
is the, so when we talk about greenhouse gases, you all named a few in the first class. CO2 is the most abundant gas, although it's, so they're basically absorbing infrared long wave radiation, and that's why, that is what is heating, the vibration that it makes is what they absorb in that wavelengths, and which is what is causing the warming that we have, global warming. But so even though methane has better absorbing potential, the amount that methane is present is really 0.00 some percentage. I don't remember the exact number, but 0.03% CO2. It's about 0.03. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but that is the highest or most abundance of greenhouse gas in the atmosphere. Which, so overall, if we look at the potential to warm the atmosphere, weighted, it's CO2 which has the highest potential, and that's why we are worried about burning fossil fuels, because CO2 will. And one of the ways to take back CO2 is photosynthesis. Plants can take it back through photosynthesis. They form CH2O, molecules like glucose, C6H12O6, right? So CH2 is like an NCH2O, whatever molecule that they're forming, right? So, so carbon cycle then is very important. Like, how is carbon stored in the atmosphere, is taken back by land, so it can be taken back by land. We talked about how various rocks can also take up CO2 when it's combined with water. Weak acid, carbonic acid can dissolve out rock, so it's again taking back of CO2 removing CO2 in the atmosphere, right? So it can, there are various processes that can go. So can you like now think of major reservoirs of carbon? We know atmosphere is one. Oceans, yes. How?
Oceans absorb CO2.
Absorb CO2, yeah. So
dissolves as carbonic acid and goes leaked out.
right, one is that, but other than that, rocks is one big reservoir, yes. But ocean can also form those micro phytoplanktons, right?
Yes.
They have a lot of productivity. Like oceans have the phytoplanktons in ocean. Right, in the surface. So surface ocean is a different reservoir altogether. Deeper ocean is a different reservoir with a different resin times, because remember it takes 1000 years for the surface water for it to go to the deep and come back up again. So that's a different reservoir. We're not touching it at for 1000 years. So if we sort of seal it somehow in deep ocean, 1000 years we are safe, because it's not coming back up, right? We want to remove CO2 from the atmosphere ultimately. Rocks is one, trees, vegetation. Right, so amount is basically gigatons. So these are the major reservoirs. We have atmosphere, surface ocean, different from relatively very easy to, so the exchange rate in surface ocean is very fast as compared to exchange rate as you would imagine in deep ocean, where water is not being exchanged. It's, for 1000 years it's there, right? Deep ocean, big reservoir, but very slow exchange rate. Soils. And then soil, when consolidated, forms rocks and sediments, like he said, right? So these are so what would you expect, or just guess maybe, is the largest reservoir of carbon?
Oceans, phytoplants.
Surface is very fast exchanging. So do you think it will, reservoir is like, somewhere it's just stored? Atmosphere is very fast changing. You put in CO2, so reservoir is, you're reserving it, it's kept.
Rocks and
अभी सारे हो जाएंगे. Ocean हो गया, atmosphere हो गया, rocks हो गया, चलो क्या? Look at this. Rocks. You cannot dissolve out rocks so easily. Can you? So rocks. Deep ocean, yes, thousands of years, but still. So these is all in gigatons. Atmosphere तो बहुत easily. कल थोड़ा ज़्यादा fossil fuel कर दो, 5 साल ज़्यादा कर दो, कुछ और ही ppm हो जाएगा. CO2. Remember, very fast we are doing it. Like in 10 years we are going somewhere else. It's very fast. Ocean mix layer also very fast, because plants हो रहे हैं, मर रहे हैं, productivity हो रही है, you know, as they're dying, they are kind of getting deposited at bottom of the ocean, deep ocean, then you know they're gone, right? For good time. But rocks, time it takes to form rocks, and time it takes to dissolve silicate rock. Remember, SiO2 is one of the strongest bonds to break. So for CO2, weak acid like CO2 to break SiO2 or you know any rock, carbonate rocks are relatively faster to dissolve out, but these any for carbon in any form. So you know this is a big research topic that a lot of the researchers around the world are involved. They're trying to put it in geological formation, basically trying to remove carbon and put it somehow in geological formations. So you know rocks and sediments. Even better, right? Rocks. Sediments are still like you know unconsolidated, but rocks. So huge. You know they're making all sorts of injection in rocks. Various compounds of carbon which can sort of you know permanently you know be, or at least for the longest time, be stored. Okay.
And what is the exact process by which sediments and rocks store CO2? Deposited.
So I think so you know so you know one easy process is to form calcium carbonate. Limestone, this huge limestone. I don't know if you have seen Normandy cliffs in France, white cliffs. मैंने फोटो देखी होगी ना कोई मूवी में, कोई तो आई डोंट रिमेम्बर, किसी मूवी में दिखाया होगा आई एम श्योर. वाइट बिल्कुल ऐसे रॉक्स खड़े हुए हैं, वो चॉक क्लिफ्स हैं. चॉक मतलब ऐसा नहीं लेके लिखना शुरू कर दो. दे आर लाइमस्टोन, they are made of calcium carbonate, but you know consolidated, and so CO2 has to be taken. There has to be enough calcium for it to bind, right? So one is that, right? So how do you make, so the reaction CaCO3 plus H2CO3, the one which you were going it this direction, it has to be backwards, right? So H plus HCO3 minus reacts into CO2. So it has to go backwards. Plus CO2 it would release if it's dissolving. So it has to go back. So that is one, but there are other ways also to form rocks. And you would see, and so you know this is also important because when we were looking at, remember the last time scale, and if you remember the historical or orbital, and then last was tectonic. Tectonic is when this rock changing into or weathering comes into picture, and in my next lecture I'll start on that. So how carbon played a big role when we were changing, and weathering played a big role when we were changing from one climate state to another. Okay. So these are the exchange rates. As you can see, vegetation very fast, right? Gigatons per year. 100 gigatons per year, right? So carbon in the form of, so how does it, do I tell? Yeah. So, you know, how does it take up, it forms, you know, CH2O or you know, any molecule. Photosynthesis very fast, die, decompose, go in the soil. They can directly also, you know, some of the microorganisms, microbes can also directly take CO2 and surface absorption, and also whatever productivity that is happening in the ocean mix layer here, dies and deposits in the at the bottom ocean. They can directly, you know, sort of react, and but very very slow, 0.2 gigatons, and it's mostly because of not silicate rocks but carbonate rocks. Wherever they are, you know, very slowly changing, exchanging, and you know whatever that is dissolved is going to the ocean, kept in the, you know, deep ocean. Deep ocean is continuously, you know, mixing it with the surface layer, but you know it's not that much. So so large reservoirs like rocks, deep ocean exchange carbon much more slowly as compared to small reservoir, as you'd expect, atmosphere, vegetation, and surface ocean very fast exchange, 100, 74, 74.6, and soil is also 50, and deep ocean and sediment rocks very slow. Also, as you would expect, again, carbon in land vegetation is organic, okay, as is most carbon in soils, because when whatever is dying whatever plants or animals, carbon is in the form of organic compounds. While in the ocean, it's mostly inorganic, be it dissolved in organic carbon. So anions and mostly anions like HCO3 minus in that form, or carbonate in that form. So occurring as dissolved iron. So they can combine with some of the metals if they are present, but mostly they're all dissolved and then taken up by plants to form again organic matter. Right. So so photosynthesis on land we've talked about. We need all these things. They're also transpiring. What is transpiration? Anybody know what is transpiration? Plants transpiration.
Loss of water from the leaves.
Right, loss of water. Why would it lose water? It's taking up water. So when it does photosynthesis, it loses out some water, and so transpiration is one process of putting water back in the atmosphere, along with evaporation, which you all know that evaporation takes the water goes back in the atmosphere through evaporation. One of the important components that the plants need, so just carbon and water is not sufficient, sunlight is not sufficient, it also needs nutrients, nitrogen and phosphorus. So regions where this is abundantly there, good productivity, and people are now putting all sorts of fertilizers to improve the productivity on land. But yeah, and so this is what happens in the ocean. So you can imagine that 100 meters where you get sunlight, average depth, it's somewhere, some places it goes further deep, but roughly 100 meters, and you can see the photosynthesis happening, CO2, and then when this dies, decomposes, it goes at the bottom of the ocean, deep ocean. On the way, if it gets oxidized, there is CO2 again, back. But if it doesn't, it deposits at the bottom of the ocean. So then, which regions of the oceans are most productive? So again, if let's say if we are looking at this photosynthesis, right, and this is plant, there would be some photosynthesis means some aquatic plants or microplanktons that are there on the surface layer, right? Apart from these two, what do we need? Sunlight, yes. So what else do we need?
The nutrients.
Nutrients. So where, I'm just guiding you to the answer of this question. Where would you think surface ocean would get nutrients? What's that? Near the
Land regions.
land regions, yes, that's a good answer, but that's also very turbulent. So land region के पास ऐसा तो नहीं होगा, there must be rivers bringing nutrients. So if it is touching, water is touching land, it might not dissolve, or let's say if there is rivers coming in and going, those are very, bringing in nutrients, but they're also very turbulent for the life to, sustain. So those regions are not full of life. I mean, rivers में देखा है कहीं plants उग रहे हैं? नहीं, कभी नहीं देखा होगा. It's only when the water stands in lakes, like eutrophic or whatever, that's when the productivity of that water increases to the extent it might become eutrophic, right? You might have heard of this term. But so those high energy environments you would not expect. Where would you expect nutrients? In the ocean. Come on, we're just talking about how nutrients can be brought to the surface. Huh?
River basins.
Again the same answer. River basins में have you, मतलब river basin में देखो ना, वो जो बड़े बड़े boulders होते हैं, they are not slippery because there's no, unless कि पानी रुका हुआ है. It has, the environment थोड़ा ये होना चाहिए ना to sustain life. What is important in oceans? How are we bringing the nutrients that are going down, how are we bringing up? Upwelling zones. Remember I talked about how fishery industry is flourishing in Peru. So upwelling zones are one of the most nutrient regions in around the world. So and then you can have productivity, full of productivity, all the upwelling zones. And then remember we were talking about how trade winds also, equatorial, some of the equatorial regions are also very productive because when the trade winds are going like that, it takes water along. Water moves to the right in the northern hemisphere, moves to the right, and some upwelling happening around the equator also. So that upwelling zones are very productive. And around in the Southern Ocean also, there are a few upwelling regions where it's really, and this is what I was saying. The Southern Ocean is actually touted to be the next place scientists are sort of aiming, or even now, to make that region as carbon taking or carbon sequestration. They're aiming that there's not much land, we won't be worried, let's just grow plants there. But the limiting factor there is nitrogen, phosphorus, but the limiting factor in that region is unfortunately iron. So they're also now doing iron fertilization experiments there. I mean, it's been many, I think, decades now. When I was a student, undergrad, then I heard of this experiment, and so iron fertilization is a big experiment that they were dropping iron pellets in the Southern Ocean to that trace nutrient that is missing for the plants to grow. Somehow the land there does not have that much iron. Iron has to weather out from rocks to go to the sea, to the ocean, right? Everything is chemically related. There's not much iron in those in Southern Ocean, and iron fertilization is something that a lot of work has gone into. It has its own problems, and which like cloud seeding experiments that Delhi. Did you hear about cloud seeding experiment?
Yes.
हाँ
है ना, बारिश करा रहे थे आर्टिफिशियल केजरीवाल।
आईआईटी कानपुर वाले ने।
हाँ, आईआईटी कानपुर हमारे राइवल ग्रुप हैं, वो हमारे एटमॉस्फेरिक साइंसेस के सारे फंड वही ले लेते हैं उनका जो बट या ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, मतलब यू कैन नॉट प्ले विद द हाइड्रोलॉजिकल सिस्टम्स।
मतलब जो पहले से बनने वाले थे,
इट वाज अ डिजास्टर। दुबई पे कैसा फ्लड्स आ गए जहाँ मतलब पानी, यू कैन नॉट प्ले विद द हाइड्रोलॉजिकल साइकिल। आई मीन यू कैन डू इट लेट्स से रीजनली, वहाँ की सॉइल भी तो होनी चाहिए एब्जॉर्ब करने वाली, वो हो गया ना फिर वहाँ फ्लड, ड्रेनेज इशूज एंड दैट द लिथोलॉजी ऑफ दैट रीजन। तो आप ग्राउंड वहाँ का वो तो चेंज करोगे नहीं। फ्लड्स क्यों आ रहा है? बिकॉज वी आर मेकिंग इट कॉन्क्रीट एवरीवेयर, बिल्डिंग्स बना रहे हैं तो पानी एब्जॉर्ब ही नहीं कर पा रहा है। अल्टीमेटली पानी शुड एक्चुअली, वाटर शुड पर्कुलेट डाउन द सॉइल्स, तो इसलिए फ्लड्स आ रहे हैं। अब वहाँ पर वो सॉइल ही नहीं है जो पानी पर्कुलेट, वो ऊपर ही रखे रहेंगे और फ्लड आ जाएगा। तो ठीक है, साइंटिफिकली सोचना है, बट वी नीड टू थिंक अबाउट द प्रोज एंड कॉन्स। सो ये आयरन फर्टिलाइजेशन एक्सपेरिमेंट इन द सदर्न ओशन भी है, वो भी थोड़ा मतलब ऐसा ही है, उसके भी कुछ प्रोज एंड कॉन्स हैं। डेफिनेटली रीड इनटू इट, कोर्स में नहीं है बट जस्ट फॉर फन। ओके, देन there are some feedback. So hota kya hai, it's not like you make a change or there is some change in the climate system and everything is just linearly responding to it. There are some feedbacks also that occur, and we'll talk about feedbacks throughout the course कि अगर ये change हो गया तो क्या feedback हो सकता है, right? So feedback, let me explain it in a way that fossil fuel, we're burning fossil fuels, right? So one of the some particulate matter is also going in the atmosphere, right? Fossil fuel burning से सबसे most important impact on the Earth's climate in general is कि warming हो रही है, right? We all know. So I think in one of the lectures in the end we'll talk about net radiative forcing. What is net radiative forcing? What is the amount of radiation that is coming in minus what is going out? So we'll talk about that. Very important when we talk about global climate or global warming. But warming हो रही है, but उसका एक क्या है कि particulate matter भी जा रहा है. Now those particulate matter, and we talk about albedo. They particulate matter. These are sometimes aerosols, right? sometimes they act as condensation nuclei, which are basically which forms or which help condensation on them, which help form clouds, right? तो clouds बन जाते हैं. तो cloud से क्या हो रहा है? Whatever energy that we are receiving, clouds, remember clouds have higher albedo. Albedo is what? Reflectivity of the surface. तो वार्मिंग, तो पहला इनिशियल फोर्सिंग क्या था? हमने वार्मिंग की बिकॉज ऑफ दैट. बट वार्मिंग से व्हाटएवर बर्निंग और व्हाटएवर दैट इज हैपनिंग, क्लाउड्स जो हैं वो उसमें नेगेटिव फीडबैक कर रहे हैं, वो कूलिंग कर रहे हैं, रिलेटिव कूलिंग. क्यों? क्योंकि जो सन की रेडिएशन है वो कम कर रहे हैं. तो ये एक नेगेटिव टाइप ऑफ फीडबैक हो गया कि ऑल्दो वी आर पुशिंग इट टुवर्ड्स वार्मिंग, लेकिन क्लाउड्स के कारण नेगेटिव फीडबैक हो रहा है. तो दिस इज अ नेगेटिव फीडबैक, बट there are positive feedbacks also. So assume that some external factor, again in this case they're choosing an external factor, for an example, okay, change in the strength of radiation from the sun हुआ अगर causes climates to change.
Clouds retain more heat overall. That is also a factor.
Clouds don't retain water molecule.
Yeah.
Huh.
Clouds contain water molecules and that retain more heat.
No, there is a difference in the form of water. It has to be water vapor and not in the form of the cloud. So cloud condensation, when they are about to condense, like they're not the molecules which are absorbing energy to cloud, they are net, they could be, yes, possibly they're both mixed, but then the net impact that it has is more towards the negative. So they cause relatively cooling as compared to what you would expect. I would expect single molecules, like there are water vapor. There's water vapor in the class that we are at right now, right? That water vapor is continuously, vibrating, right? As you would imagine, only motion. So that energy that it is getting is from the temperature that. But cloud is more of a condensation form of a different form of water. All right. So yeah, as you would, if there is a initial forcing on change in external factor, if that factor on a component kind of it's added up and even multiplies, that is what is positive feedback, as you would imagine. You might have heard of feedback term in electronics में जैसे देखते हैं या जो भी. But negative feedback is something of an opposite saying. So you kind of tend to reduce the impact that we have. So we have, for example, दो example दिए हुए हैं, but there are many examples throughout the book. So let's see what it. So there's water vapor feedback, for instance. So when the climate warms, the atmosphere is able to hold more water vapor, right? And water vapor is also one of the major greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. And the increase in water vapor leads to further warming, which means it's a positive feedback, right? So warm मतलब ज़्यादा evaporation, और ज़्यादा evaporation होगा. And water, remember, water molecule is a greenhouse gas, right? So और evaporation हो रहा है, और water vapor बढ़ते जा रहे हैं, और warming होती जा रही है, फिर और evaporation. So this is like a positive feedback. So this is an example of positive feedback and negative feedback. Why these feedback are important, and when we talk about different climate change at various time scales, कुछ ना कुछ feedbacks change हुए होंगे. So that's why I'm sort of introducing these at this stage. Okay. Albedo temperature feedback. So for example, when climate cools, more of the snow is formed, more ice is formed, right? So more albedo. तो जो भी बच्चों को जी, let's say there's a change in sun's radiative energy. You have sun has sunspots. So the amount of radiation that is coming from sun has decreased. Now that cooling, that leads to cooling on the earth's surface, right? Now that cooling would make more ice, more snow. More ice, more snow, मतलब कि जो भी radiation आ रही होगी वो भी reflect back हो जाएगी. They have a albedo, reflectivity of 1, white surface, fresh snow. तो और snow form होगी, right? So that should be. और अच्छा इसमें तो कुछ negative ही दिया है. क्या negative feedback दिखाया है? Yeah, so positive feedback ही दिखाया है इसमें, ठीक है? That is what I am explaining, right? Okay? तो ये दो feedbacks दिखाए हैं. Both are examples of positive feedback. One is warming, कि अगर मान लो sun की external forcing, which is sun, कि कुछ होता है, and remember, if you remember, we were talking about how Earth's orbital position can also change the amount of sun radiation that we get. तो चाहे वो अर्थ की पोजीशन के कारण सन की रेडिएशन ज्यादा या कम हो रही है, या सन के एक्सटर्नल फैक्टर, सन के ही खुद के सन स्पॉट चेंज हो रहे हैं, द इम्पैक्ट ऑन सन वाज कि रेडिएशन कम हुई है, रेडिएशन ज्यादा हुई है. तो फॉर एग्जांपल अगर रेडिएशन ज्यादा हो रही है, ज्यादा इंटेंस हो रही है, उसके कारण वाटर वेपर में क्या होगा कि वाटर वेपर और भी इवेपोरेट होने लग जाएगा, और ज्यादा वाटर वेपर इवेपोरेशन होगा और ज्यादा ग्रीन हाउस गैस बेसिकली हम डाल रहे हैं, और तो ही पॉजिटिव. इन द केस वेयर सन की सन स्पॉट्स फॉर एग्जांपल अगर कम हो रहे हैं और कूलिंग हो रही है, या जो भी अर्थ की पोजीशन ऐसी है कि इस समय कम रेडिएशन आ रही है फॉर दिस लॉन्ग टर्म इंटरवल, और उस समय ज़्यादा स्नो फॉर्म होती जाए, तो ये दोनों पॉजिटिव फीडबैक हैं. तो ये चाहे कूलिंग में भी हो सकता है, और इनिशियल चेंज अगर चाहे वार्मिंग की तरफ पुश कर रहा है अर्थ के क्लाइमेट सिस्टम को, तब भी हो सकता है ऐसे पॉजिटिव फीडबैक, और ये भी हो सकता है. ओके,
मैम
यस.
सनस्पॉट्स क्या होते हैं?
Anybody tell? Can anybody tell sunspots? So do you know that sun is also continually evolving? What is sun? How is the sun emitting energy? Sun is a star, is it? Reactions हो रहे हैं वहाँ पे बहुत सारे. So there are fission reactions, right? So the energy on the sun, so that also some of them, some sunspot is a sunspot cycle, 11-year cycle also. Sunspot basically are reaction on the sun surface, if I can put it very simply, which changes the amount of energy that it is emitting. ठीक है, तो short term cycle जैसे वो 11 years की होती है, but it's not too intense. But sun energy, even sometimes I think on longer time scale that also has changed, and I'll talk about it. But sunspot is just some reactions that are taking on that impacts the energy that we are receiving from the sun, the amount of heat, if I can say, right, the radiation that we are getting from it. Okay. So ये भी एक एग्जाम्पल है ऑफ पॉजिटिव फीडबैक, वेजिटेशन एल्बिडो फीडबैक. तो फॉर एग्जाम्पल कि अगर ये हाई ऑल्टीट्यूड के लिए एक एग्जाम्पल है. तो वन एग्जाम्पल इज कि अगर इनिशियल चेंज है दैट इज पुशिंग द अर्थ्स क्लाइमेट सिस्टम, अगेन चेंज ऑफ सनस्पॉट या जो भी हो, है ना, इसके कारण कूलिंग हो रही है रिलेटिव. तो अब क्या होगा, कूलिंग में जो टुंड्रा अगर वार्म है, तो टुंड्रा वेजिटेशन कैसी होती है? Anybody? स्क्रब टाइप के, मतलब दे आर नॉट फॉरेस्ट, बिग फॉरेस्ट. फॉरेस्ट के लिए हमें वार्म टेम्परेचर चाहिए फॉर बिग ट्रीज टू ग्रो. सो एज यू कम फ्रॉम पोल्स टू द इक्वेटोरियल रीजन, यू वुड इमेजिन कि बड़े बड़े पेड़ होने लगेंगे, राइट, लाइक वी हैव अमेजोन फॉरेस्ट और ये सब जो ट्रॉपिक्स में और इक्वेशन. वहाँ पर है नहीं बहुत स्क्रब, स्कैंटी सॉर्ट ऑफ वेजिटेशन बिकॉज ऑफ स्नो. तो और एक और सो लेट्स जस्ट टॉक अबाउट दिस फर्स्ट. So अगर क्लाइमेट कोई भी चेंज इनिशियल ऐसा हुआ है, अर्थ ऑर्बिटल ज्योमेट्री, चेंजेस इन सन स्ट्रेंथ, व्हाटएवर, और वोल्केनिक एक्टिविटी, टोबा, कूलिंग हो गई, बड़ी सी वोल्केनिक एक्सटर्नल फैक्टर, एक्सटर्नल फोर्सिंग व्हिच इज लीडिंग टू कूलिंग ऑफ द क्लाइमेट. तो regions where they were let's say still higher altitude, where there were some forests, tundra then replaces them, and high albedo surface effect. So then tundra means कि उतना forest, so forest was like dark cover where it would still trap the radiation that it's coming. Tundra means more exposed snow, right? So then it would reflect back whatever radiation that is still coming. So this is more of and it would lead to again cooling, climate cooling. Okay, so ये vegetation climate positive feedback के vegetation, you see what I mean, everybody? Yeah. See, definitely go back and read the book. बहुत simple language में लिखा है. If you're not understanding, feel free to ask me, but also read in the text. मतलब लेटे read कर लो उसको. ऐसा है, इतनी story type की लिखी है वो book. Okay, they've used a vernacular language for everybody to understand. Okay, vegetation, precipitation feedback क्या है देखिए. Yeah, so generally you'll have to think of all the processes that are in play when you are considering a factor. मतलब कभी भी ऐसा नहीं होता है कि initial change से ही पूरा climate change हो गया. There are many feedbacks going on in the internal system also, and इसलिए climate modelers जो models हैं बहुत कॉम्प्लेक्स हो जाते हैं, बिकॉज इफ यू डोंट कंसिडर फीडबैक एंड जस्ट सिंपल लीनियर रिएक्शन के इतना चेंज हुआ है तो इतना टेम्परेचर चेंज डजंट वर्क दैट वे. The climate models that we use are very complex. Okay. Start again. खत्म हो गई क्या क्लास? टाइम अप. लास्ट स्लाइड थी. Okay, I want to finish this. Yeah, this is the last slide. Again, एक example है. Vegetation, precipitation, feedback, initial change. If it is pushing towards a warmer climate, increased precipitation, forest replaces grassland. और फिर तो अगर वार्मिंग हो रही है, whatever initial change in external forcing is causing the climate to warm. वार्म के कारण ज़्यादा प्रेसिपिटेशन हो रहा है. वार्म एंड ह्यूमिड में जो ग्रास लैंड होंगे वहाँ भी फॉरेस्ट निकलने लगेंगे. फॉरेस्ट के कारण यू वुड हैव मोर ट्रांसपिरेशन ऑफ वाटर वेपर. 2 ways में हो सकता है. एक तो ट्रांसपिरेशन होगा, इट्स लूजिंग आउट मोर वाटर और ग्रीन हाउस गैस इन द एटमोसफियर, मोर वार्मिंग, एंड ऑल्सो जो भी रिफ्लेक्टिविटी भी होगा वो भी कम हो जाएगी. 2 ways में ये, which is not yet given here, लेकिन you can imagine that both ways this positive feedback can happen, which is vegetation, precipitation, feedback. So that brings me to the end of chapter 2. There are a few plots here and there which I have not shown, which I have not discussed, but more or less ये है, देखो पढ़ लेना जाके. It's like I said, it's very interesting. So एक एग्जाम्पल ये देखो कि ये CO2 लास्ट प्लॉट, बाद में अभी बस जाने दीजिए. ये दिस इज योर एज. CO2 concentrations, you can see that ये ऐसे हो रहा है. ये ग्लोबल एवरेज है. क्यों हो रहा है ऐसे? why is it not increasing like that? Now this is really high resolution.
Seasonal change.
हाँ? Seasonal change, yes. So seasonal change, जैसे समर्स में ज़्यादा relatively जैसे प्लांट्स होते हैं, विंटर्स में सूख जाते हैं. घर के भी में तो बालकनी में सारे सूख गए, विंटर में सूख जाते हैं ना, तो उसके कारण CO2 is taken up. तो ये सीजनल चेंज भी दिखाता है. और प्लांट्स ऑल्सो रेस्पायर. अगर डे नाइट में भी देखोगे ना, डे नाइट में भी CO2 चेंजेस होते हैं. बट ऑफ कोर्स वी आर इंटरेस्टेड इन द लॉन्ग टर्म मीन. बट या, so these are actual measurements taken from Mauna Loa Observatory. In Hawaii, where there is no human. It's like in the middle of nowhere. Okay, finish. Thank you. I have already passed on the book to Sahil from physics. Please share it amongst yourself. It's a PDF.
Thank you.